Hi everybody and welcome back to 20 Days of Healing. Today's a special day because we're talking around about green commitments. And this is a series of talks that we're going to be holding over this week where it's things that you can actually do yourself from home, that you don't need to go to the office for, and it's things that can make a huge impact to the world around you. So today I've got Ruthi Brant with us. Hey Ruthi, how you doing?
Hi, lovely to be here.
I first came across Ruthi through my sister-in-law. They're both biologists and they both live in Oxford, and they're both huge on campaigning for animals and animal wildlife in general. So when I came to think about, this week and what we were looking to achieve for this week, Ruthi just had to be up on that list because of all of the excellent work that she does. So Ruthi, I know that we've kind of like talked third hand through Ali, and I wonder for people who are watching this on replay, if you could just kind of give a bit of an introduction about what you do, what your background is, and what really gets you excited.
Thanks, Vicky. It's really lovely to be here and talk about these things and kind of expose more people to these ideas. So my background is, I've been campaigning on various environmental issues for most of my adult life, starting back in my university days, which is way longer ago than I'd care to remember. But so I've been doing things, from global issues, campaigning around climate change, international commitments, to more local things like introducing recycling to places where they didn't have recycling before. As I said, I've been doing this for a long time. But I've my background in terms of education is biology. I studied biology as an undergraduate, and I have a master's in biology and ecology. And at the moment, I'm doing another master's at the Center for Alternative Technology in Wales, which is about a master's in sustainability and adaptation. So it's all about how do we create a better society with all the changes that are coming, and how do we minimize the changes that climate change is going to bring. But combining these two interests, the interest in the love of nature, and the imperative for systemic change and changing the way we live, I found myself being really drawn into the issue of nature-based solutions, and specifically green spaces in urban areas. And they're so important, and as we're going to talk a bit later, it starts even from a windowsill. You don't even need a garden to make an impact, and goes all the way to networks of parks in a city. And the reason I find it so exciting is that they bring so many benefits. And if we're talking from the very direct benefits to humans, from physical health to mental health, child development. Children who have access to green spaces are better developed and more equipped to deal with things later in life. And you have the more specific adaptations that will help us deal with a changing climate. So you have even you don't need a big park. Even just an avenue of trees in a city will help reduce the temperatures in cities. And as the climate heats up, we obviously want that. And on the other hand, you also have it helps with reducing flooding, and which we've seen more and more in recent years. So that's also an important and exciting benefit. And then you have the issues where kind of I connect to more emotionally, I guess, is the issue to nature, supporting nature and biodiversity. Climate change is not the only crisis we're facing. We're facing biodiversity crisis, which is just as serious, even though it's been getting a little less attention, though it's been picking up recently. And because urban environments are going to be are already very dominant in the world, and definitely in a country like the UK, focusing on what cities can do to help biodiversity is also is something that helps on a global level. So you have all these kind of the range of these benefits, and that's why I'm so excited about these things.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there that we could possibly talk about. And I suppose at the moment, I mean, right now where we are is everyone's in there. Is it the 4th or the 5th week of lockdown? 4th. We're in the 4th week of lockdown. And, it's a lot of people are now kind of thinking that, you know, where I'm still at home, I want to get involved in all these things. I want to help make a difference to the world around me, but I can't get out. I can't go to the park and plant the trees because that's, you know, I can't socially distant while I'm there. So what can you do? I mean, you mentioned there that, you know, it starts with a windowsill. So what can you do if you have a small garden or it's a windowsill? How can, you know, how can you make a difference if it's only a couple of plant pots?
Yes, well, you put it very well. I mean, one of the beautiful things about nature is that it works on every level. You know, even if so, one of the things you can do with a windowsill is plant plants that will produce flowers that bees and other pollinators will love. So usually they tend to be beautiful flowers, so you can enjoy them as well. But you also see the buzzing of coming and going of the pollinators, bees and others. And you know, even if that's the only thing you can do, you helped a few bees survive winter, then that's a win for nature. So you know, even on that small scale. And obviously, if you have a garden or a larger area, you can do more. You can put feeders, and you can plant more bee friendly, pollinator friendly plants. You can, you know, keep areas a bit wilder in the garden, have some log piles so frogs can hide and other insects can hide there over winter. That helps them survive the winter. Of course, an amazing thing to do is have a pond. You don't even need a big proper pond. You can, we'll talk about this later, but there's various sites with explaining how you can just take basically a washing bowl and create a mini pond out of that, and you'll still bring benefit to the local wildlife, and that adds, all these little things add up.
Really? So just like a washing bowl, like an old washing bowl that I've got in my kitchen, I can just
Yeah,
put some like stones in it
put a
and fill
few
it with
stones. Make sure
rainwater.
either kind of sink it in the ground so it's a level with the ground, or put some, you know, something that animals can climb over and get into it. Try to fill it with if you have access to rainwater rather than tap water, because our tap water has various chemicals in it and it's not that great for wildlife. And just wait for things to come. I mean, if you have a friend who has a pond, you can put a few pond plants, but it's not, it's, you know, but even without that, it will take longer, but things will come, and that's just fascinating to watch and see how that develops. That's what the biologist in me just would, you know, put that to the side and see how long it takes for things to arrive. And when frogs disperse in the late summer, then you might get, you know, if you have other ponds not too far away, then you'll even get a frog finding it and making it their home. So
That's crazy because I had never thought that even just like a washing bowl, like a tiny like wee washing bowl, could actually have that sort of impact.
yeah, and it's
Okay.
also water for birds to both to drink and to clean themselves in. So again, if you have, it's like, you know, it's also functions as a bird bath. And personally, I love it. I find it kind of funny the way birds just go in and shake all their feathers and stuff, and I can watch that for, you know, as long as they're washing up. And so that's, again, that's also something that you can see. And so all these things are both helping wildlife, and again, most people enjoy it because it's in our nature to enjoy nature.
Now that's a really good point. One of the things that I've always been really fascinated about is autumn.
Mm.
So you've got all the leaves come down from the trees, and it's usually the time of the year that you do all of your tree trimming. So
Mhm.
you've got all these logs, and what I've been doing, I don't know if this is right, and maybe you can help me here, is I've just been putting them into like a corner of the garden. So it's like
Perfect.
all untreated wood, and they've just been like thrown in order to make it more suitable for wildlife. You know, what can I do?
Leave it alone, basically. It's there. You know, if you're covering it with leaves as well, it's more. But it's, you know, it will develop, and trees will start to rot over the years, and it will be more and more inviting. But I mean, the very first uh, um, benefit that it brings, it brings shelter, so things can hide in it. And then again, when it starts to fall apart, some of the wood, and then you have insects that can eat it and hide inside the wood. And again, it's a whole ecosystem that develops throughout the year. And then, of course, over winter, it's also specifically, as I said, if you have a pond, or if your neighbors have a pond, you might find a frog hibernating there and waiting for nicer weather to come. So yeah, that is a huge benefit, and it's you know it's not a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of space. As I said, it's just the corner of the garden, and just dump things there basically.
Yeah, it's it did start as like the throw corner. So it's like things that were too big that we needed to go back in the garden. Oh, I'll sort that out later. And I was going through it trying to order it and trying to try to put it in some sort of organized kind of platform thing. And all of these beetles and bugs kept coming out. So I just decided to leave it. And I'd noticed that a lot of the bugs were where the leaves were, and I hadn't. We've got like 3 or 4 big trees out in the back garden there, all of which are in like my neighbours' gardens, and my garden gets full with leaves. And you said there about putting leaves on top of the log pile. I'm just
Mhm.
wondering if there's anything specific around leaves in a garden at time of fall or autumn that's beneficial.
Well, I mean, it's in a completely natural scenario, the leaves will just stay on the ground, and that's wonderful because again they rot into the ground, and they make the ground more nutritious, and it provides hiding places for small insects. So, but obviously, a garden even a wildlife garden is a bit of a balance between our use and our enjoyment of it, and what the animals want. So I know it makes sense you want to clear the leaves from the garden, but if you put it to one side, some animals can still benefit from it, and they do rot lovely. I mean, there's also a great you can make wonderful compost and liquid compost from leaves. I'm not an expert on that, but there's various basically you put it in as far as I understand, you just kind of put it in a bin bag. Yeah, you put it in a bin bag, leave it for a year or something, and next year you have liquid fertilizer. Um, so that's a
That's
very rough description of how to do it. You should probably look it up a bit more
that sounds
specifically.
like a crazy science experiment. I'm up for that.
Excellent. I'll be interested to hear how it works because I've been wanting to do it for a while. um,
Wow, that's cool. Okay, so then we've talked there about what you can do hanging out of like the window with the plant pot. We've talked around putting a like making your own pond out of a wash bowl. Brilliant idea, by the way. Love it. And popping that in the garden, and also having a messy corner.
mm,
What else can people do at home to get involved in
um,
supporting wildlife? And how much of an area do we really need to put aside?
yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, I mean, it is any area is beneficial. One of the, as I said, one of even if you have like just a tiny corner that is friendly for more insects, then more insects will survive there and live there, and that's great. If you have a larger area, then even more insects would be able to survive. So that, again, that's the beauty of nature. Really, every little helps. And so that's totally up to you in terms of decision of what you want to, how much you want to set aside. Of course, if you want to have a more interesting pond, for example, you're going to need a bigger pond. So that's going to take more area. So these are all just decisions that you can make, very specifically for your garden and your taste and how much time you have to put in it. And then as I said, I mean, it's very common. People have bird feeders, and that's great. Um, but you also, if you want to take it a bit further, one thing is that's been gaining a lot of support in recent years is, for example, what we call hedgehog highways. And that's one of the problems that we have. I mean, the gardens are wonderful and they can provide a lot of food and nutrition, but they are fragmenting the environment. And though, so it's fine for birds and flying insects, but hedgehogs can't jump over the fence and roam. And hedgehogs, for example, need a large area to roam. So a campaign has started, not sure how many years ago, to encourage people to put holes in their fences, just about a CD-sized hole, if that's still a relevant uh, a relevant thing, because people don't have much CDs, but that's about that size. And so those are called hedgehog highways, and there's a campaign. It's called Hedgehog Streets, where people can encourage and talk to their neighbors. That's something that you can do during lockdown, because you can talk with your neighbors over the fence. Or we started in our street recently. We started a WhatsApp group, which we didn't have before. That's also something that came out with all this craziness. So that's an opportunity to do something local and hugely increase the amount of the benefits that you bring by your small actions. So there's a website, people can go, it's hedgehogstreet.org, I think. And they have materials there and suggestions. And it's come to the point, and there's a campaign there as well. So you have developers now installing already hedgehog holes in new developments, and you have and I think that at least one developer promised to do that in any of their new in all of their new future developments. So that's, and again, that came about because people, first of all, were enthusiastic about doing it at home, and then said, well, hang on, this is great, why don't we have it everywhere? So, a campaign started, a petition, and that's a really good example of how starting small and just getting enthusiastic about your local area can actually have a huge impact, because suddenly you realize, well, that can be done everywhere, and why is it not done everywhere? So
Yeah,
people just start on that.
that sounds amazing. So I've heard of the hedgehog highways and I've heard of hedgehog streets. And I've got to admit, I haven't heard of anything happening around my area. So that's something that I can take away on and do that maybe with my son. So,
That would be amazing.
Yeah, we can spread the word together. Spreading the word with a toddler. Awesome. Cool.
Toddlers are great in spreading words.
Yeah, they are, aren't they? Now, there's a few myths about hedgehogs, isn't there? Because I've always been really conscious about putting out food that's going to be right for them.
Yeah.
And some people say it's cat food, some people say it's dog food, some people say that if you just put out water.
Well, water is always important for any wildlife. So definitely, especially with the hot summers we have, if you have a garden, then even if you don't have a regular, a regular pond, then putting out saucers with water when it gets hot, that's brilliant. That's good for bees, that's good for hedgehogs, and for birds, for anything. In terms of hedgehogs, I'm really not an expert, but there is a wonderful Facebook group that I know that's called Hedgehog Highways, maybe, anyway, it's and it's run by a hedgehog specialist, Hugh Warwick. And I hope he doesn't see this because he's a friend of mine. I should know his name.
Well, I'll be tagging him in this, so there'll be shame everywhere.
Exactly. Well, blackout for a moment, but yeah. So he's been campaigning on that, and he's running with other people. He's running that. And so a lot of people just share their experience and good best practices. So if that's a particular interest, I recommend that. And because I've seen people talk about cat food there and stuff, but I haven't really paying attention too much because we don't really have hedgehogs in my area. That's really annoying. I haven't seen any, but we maybe need to work a bit more on our hedgehog street, and maybe we'll get a few more.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can compare notes in a year's time once we've been practicing our hedgehog streets. Cool. Awesome. So then the last question that I've got for you, Ruthie, is about the grass in your garden. I used to be completely anal about making sure that my grass was always the same length. And I noticed that once I let the grass grow a little bit long, and as I was mowing it, there was all these flies and bugs coming out of the grass. And I kind of started leaving it a little bit longer. And I just wondered, is there a right length for grass? Is it a good idea to leave some long grass around?
Yeah, well, that's again, there's so as part of leaving areas a bit messy in your garden, one thing to do is even leave a patch of grass not touched at all, and just let it grow, and that's what you'll have insects there. You have eventually wildflowers. You can also put some wildflower seeds in there and to make it a bit quicker. So that's great. And again, the bigger area that you have, the more effective it will be. But even a small area, just the edges. We had well, I think we'll do it this year as well. But we just sometimes leave the edges of the grassy area. We just don't touch them and just let the tall grass come out. But yeah, definitely mowing less is good. I don't remember you want to mow at the beginning of the season and the end of the season, but depending how quick it grows, I guess it's also depending on the grass and the conditions. But you want to leave it a bit, you don't want to mow it and keep it very tight. But mowing is also helpful because some of the flowers that for the daisies, for example, they thrive on a bit of mowing. They'll grow better if you mow them occasionally. Again, I don't remember the exact the exact recommendation, and that, as I said, depends on the type of grass and weather and stuff. But Plant Life, I believe, have some recommendations on that, which is again plantlife.org, I guess. And they also sell wildlife seeds, wildflower seeds, so you can spread it around your garden and see flowers as well as grass. So yeah, that is a huge benefit, and so many insects can thrive on slightly longer grass. It doesn't have to be the really tall grass. It's very helpful.
I like that. So I think I'm going to do that again this year. So whenever anyone drives past my place and it looks like a complete jungle, I'm making wildlife spaces for bugs.
I think yes, embrace the messiness, and that's basically embracing nature. I think it's a bit of a psychological flip that most of us need to do. Like, we think about gardens as something that needs to be tidy and showcase how tidy and how organized we are, but actually you can get so much more of it if you leave some of it a bit messy and not as tightly controlled as we normally do.
I love that, Ruthie. So I'm hearing there about letting wildlife take over, letting nature take over, and just sitting back and seeing what comes. I like that. That's brilliant.
Wonderful.
Awesome. And I know that we've spoken around so many wonderful things today. And if you were to like pick one thing that someone could do at home that you would suggest would be maybe the most fun, what would you say that would be?
Well, if you have a garden, I think the most fun is bird feeders. And so it's really easy. You just need to buy a bird feeder and seeds or fat balls, and just put them out, and you'll see the birds coming. Finding it might take them a while to find it. That's a new food source, so they might not be there the very first day, but eventually they'll come and enjoy it. And thank you for it. And you'll be able to enjoy it. And it's wonderful. You can start looking and trying to identify birds and identify their bird song. There's so much to do around it, and kids love it as well.
Cool. I think that's a really useful tip, and I'm going to go out. You've prompted me. You've reminded me. I'm going to go out and fill my bird feeders right now, because I think the birds have had them this morning.
Well, wonderful.
Ruthie, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been fantastic speaking to you. Thank you very much. And thank you for everybody who's watching on replay. My name is Vicky Poole. You can follow me at Vicky Poole Coach on Twitter and Instagram. And you can press the button below to subscribe to all of the new upcoming videos. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care and God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.